In the news business, I learned early on whoever tells the story shapes the narrative. Today on Marketing with Maggie, I'm joined by Roshanda Pratt, someone I worked alongside in the TV news business early on in our careers. Today, she helps leaders build visibility and power by owning their story. And we're unpacking why visibility isn't vanity, it's leadership. Well, Roshanda, welcome to Marketing with Maggie. It's so good to have you here.
Maggie, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. I know it's going to be amazing.
Oh, absolutely. With us, everything is always amazing.
That's right.
Well, we come from news backgrounds, so this will be an easy starter question for you. As we know in the news business, you always lead with your best. So
Right.
if someone only watches just a few short minutes of this video, what is the biggest takeaway you want them to know about the power of storytelling?
That facts tell, but stories sell every single time. And
Ooh.
that storytelling is really woven into our DNA. It's how we have human connection, it's how we understand the world around us. So, if you really want to stand out in a world or in a market that seems saturated, if you want to showcase the best of who you are, master telling your story.
Mic drop. I mean, seriously, that was everything right there. I love how you just talk in like quotes and sound bites. It's just so beautiful.
It's my old habits,
Yeah, they
journaling,
die hard.
they die hard, yeah.
Well, you often quote this proverb. I love this. Those who tell the stories rule the world. What does that mean in today's leadership landscape?
It means so much, Maggie. It's when I discovered that Native American proverb, I hitched everything on that because it's so true. When we look at the world around us, it's all goes back to the people who decided to show up and tell the story. For example, how do we know that Starbucks has great coffee? We just know that it's good coffee because they sold us a story that we bought. They sold us a story that they have great coffee. It's the place you go when you want to be creative, when you want to get out of your office. It's the place you go to meet people. So they have sold us a story and they've created a culture around that storytelling. So if you want to dominate in your industry, you really have to understand how to tell a story because every single day, Maggie, you and I are being told a story. Now,
Mm.
here's the flip side of that Native American proverb that says, those that tell the stories rule the world. It didn't say that it had to be an accurate story. It just said, those who decide to show up and tell a story, those are the ones that rule the world. And so, all day, every day, we're being told a story, whether it's true or not, and we're having to decipher between fact and fiction, but someone understands the power of telling a story. Now, to the leaders who are watching this, and if you're watching Marketing with Maggie, I know that you are not a scoundrel, you're not an Instagram imposter, a LinkedIn lurker,
Yep.
Facebook faker. That's not your lane. You're a person who really cares about your industry and you really want to have deep impact, right?
Yep.
And while having deep impact, you also want to have deep income. That goes back to telling a story. If you don't like what's happening in your industry, if you don't like what's happening in the landscape, Maggie, I tell people all the time, it's your fault because the people who are showing up online, creating the content, doing the newsletters, and all the things are the people who decided to stop being a secret and they decided to show up. Whereas you are still playing secret with your purpose and still hiding. So those that tell the stories rule the world. There's a part of the world that you're called to rule.
Amazing. And that goes into my next question. A lot of leaders, especially
Mm.
women, underrepresented voices as well, struggle with that visibility and getting their story out there. Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of it is what we're ingrained and told. I've worked with so many leaders, dynamic women in their industry and their profession, from people who have 20 plus years experience working in politics to VPs of training. And all of them have that same line of, I don't want to come off braggy. I don't want to tell people what I do. And that really goes back to you're a hidden expert, but not the go to authority in your industry. And you're waiting for your works to amplify what you're doing. But the problem with that, Maggie, is your works don't have a mouth, they can't talk for you. And so that goes back to helping women build the confidence to be able to speak up about the great things that they're doing, the projects that they help lead, the changes that they've implemented in communities and society. And I think it really goes back to I'm raising young daughters and helping them to understand, even at 8 and 18, that your visibility is power. You deserve to be seen and heard. And so it's really creating this narrative for women and giving them permission to tell their story. And it's okay to do it because the guys are doing it with no problems.
Yeah, no,
So you
absolutely. And
do
I
it too.
agree. I've worked with a lot of leaders that feel the same way. I don't think they know the true value of this visibility, of putting themselves out there. And yeah, it's not, it can be scary, and it can come with some, other consequences. But
Mm.
what is the real, cost of staying quiet, especially in today's world?
The real cost of staying quiet. Wow. There's so many costs to staying quiet. One of the costs is your industry doesn't get your expertise or your journey. So you're hindering the growth of your industry. I believe that stories give others permission. So there's another woman behind you or another leader behind you who doesn't have permission to show up because they didn't see your example. The other cost of staying hidden is for you, you don't get the opportunity to advance in your profession or advance in your industry because nobody knows who you are. I often tell people being the best kept secret is the best kept lie.
Yeah.
R- People sometimes wear that. I remember being in a room and this woman was talking about her industry, and she's like, I'm the best kept secret in my industry. And it sounds like a badge of honor, but it's a lie because anything that's secret is hidden, anything that's hidden can't be found. And so I'm thinking about that woman who said that, but think about if she really understood the power of her visibility and showing up, how much more impact she could have in her industry through her works, her ideas, her voice. And so people really need to understand that visibility has a responsibility, but visibility is also stewardship. Our lives are meant to have such great impact. We are the answer to someone's problem. And if we don't show up, the problems remain.
Are there mistakes that people make when trying to be visible that you've
Oh,
seen, especially? What are some of the common ones that you've seen that, people stumble on?
oh, number one, they're not showing up because they're waiting for everything to be perfect. I have
Oh,
to have the website. I have to have the logo. I have to
yeah,
have this, that, and the
yeah,
other, and not understand that we embrace progress over perfection. So
yeah.
we're not looking for you to be perfect. We're just looking for you to show up how you are, and you can build all the things. When I first started in the online space in 2014, 2015, I didn't have this backdrop. We didn't have these studio lights and all the things. It was a white wall and a message in my heart. That was it. And matter of fact, it was the corner of my bedroom. It wasn't even its own room. Okay. But I was just showing up because
Yeah.
I had such conviction that I needed to tell people this answer, how to pitch stories, how to become a better storyteller. So I was just so convicted and moved by that. So I think the first thing is they don't move because they think they need more things. The second thing, when they start to move, this one is my favorite, Maggie. When they start to move, it's like, well, I got to do more research on this particular topic. I have to read more books. And I'm saying, I just told a VP this the other day. Ma'am, you have 25 years in a male dominated industry. You don't need any more books. You don't need any more training. You already have it. And I think the the reason why that happens, Maggie, and I would love to hear from you and your
Yeah.
insight, is because we look at what's easy to us and we devalue it or think, well, doesn't everybody know that? And realize,
Yes.
no, no, sir, no, ma'am, everybody does not know that. Everybody is not aware of that. And what is insignificant to you can be life changing to someone else, right, Maggie?
Oh, 100%. I see it every day. I happen to fall victim to that every day. That we don't realize the knowledge we have, the skills we have, quite as easily sometimes as other genders might. And it's good to be reminded that I think having that confidence, I think, is key,
Mhm.
especially when you're setting out to do something like this, like what you've done, is that you
Yes,
have to have the confidence, you have to have the conviction, and you have to trust that you already know enough. You already have that seat at the table, so to speak.
correct, correct.
And so absolutely. Well, I want to
Yeah,
shift gears just a little bit because we
mhm,
both came from TV news.
yes.
And what did that environment teach you about narrative control?
There's so much I learned about narrative control and storytelling from working in television news for 2 decades.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned is, and we talk to our clients about this, like how to think like a producer.
Yeah.
The producer is a person who is managing or even controlling the narrative. And so, really teaching our clients, I said this before, that visibility is stewardship, teaching our clients that if you don't manage your narrative, you leave that up to someone else to do. Someone who doesn't have your skill set, someone who doesn't know the work that you do. You're leaving that up to chance. And I don't know anybody who wants to leave their brand voice to someone who doesn't understand. So, really having people think like a producer every day, whether it's I'm sending out an email correspondence, a newsletter, creating social content, whatever that front facing thing is, and thinking like a producer of, okay, how do I manage this narrative so that way I can get people to believe me? And you ready for this? Not just believe me, but I live what I'm trying to get people to believe. How many times have I heard from people, oh my gosh, you're the same person in public than you are when I see you online? Yeah, because I am an older woman and I don't have time to be somebody else. That is too
Yes.
much to keep up with,
No.
right? It's so much easier just to be Roshanda Pratt than trying to be this made up version of myself on social. And
Yeah.
so that is a part of managing the narrative. How many times, Maggie, have you met somebody and you had one experience of them and then you meet them in person? I'm not just talking about someone having a bad day and you
Yeah.
realize this is not this person's character. This is
Yeah.
not authentic. This is not who they are, and disappointed.
Yes. Well, 100%. And I think the key word that you just said is being authentic. You
Yes.
have to be authentic, whether you're on screen, whether you're in person, whether
Mm,
you're online, just in your social presence day to day. If it's not consistent, then you come across fake, and that actually does less for your visibility and your storytelling
exactly.
if you are disjointed in that. I think that's a really big key takeaway for leaders is thinking about themselves as being authentic, as being genuine, no matter
Mhm.
where they show up. You know what I mean? Because all of our presence nowadays are, whether it's digital or in person, they're all one stream. You can't
Correct.
disconnect that anymore. I think maybe 10 years ago you could have done something like that, but people see right through that this day and age. It's just it's
Agreed.
not it's not an option.
No, not any longer anymore because people are connecting to real people. And I think there's a lot that's shifted since the pandemic in 2020, where people, and then we have AI added
Oh,
to the mix, where
yeah,
people really are just like, who are you really? And
yeah,
become very clear about that. What are your
yeah.
values? What are the things that you prioritize? All of those things speak to who you are.
And you hit on a thing that I'm very passionate about, which is AI. However,
Yes.
I'm not passionate about AI taking over everything. I'm very passionate about AI plus humans. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Humans still have to bring the judgment, the nuance, and all of that to what they're doing with AI. AI can help you with speed, but especially when you're trying to think about your brand, your story,
Mhm.
and your visibility, you need to make sure you're still owning that narrative. Would you agree?
I totally agree. I really believe that it's AI plus human spark that makes
Yes.
for something that's really beautiful. And so there's things that AI can't do. It can't tell your story better than you. It can help piece it together, but it's your lived experience. I also think that AI really can bring in the emotion and the curiosity, all those things as journalists that we've leaned on for so many years. And so I agree with you. I love what AI can do when it comes to shrinking our time, but we still need to be a part of the dialogue and the conversation. That's very necessary.
All right. Well, let's start to make this practical for leaders out there.
Mhm.
If they want to take control of their story starting this week, what's their first move?
Yeah. I read one time something that I thought was really key, and I've actually started doing this. We live our life, but we don't really take inventory of our life. And so I think the first thing to do is open a note on your device, whatever that may be, your phone, your computer, and really start to mine out your story, because we live it in real time, but we don't go back to think about that first rejection letter I got when I wanted to become a reporter. Going back to that moment, what was happening there, right? When I started to decide I wanted to take a pivot and leave television news after working in this industry for 20 years, going back and start to data mine your own story and your narrative. And what you start to see in that journey, Maggie, is you start to see life lessons, right? The
Yeah.
failures, which we have to talk about the failures, because you
Hmm.
learn more in a failure than you do that success will ever teach you,
Yeah.
right? So we're mining out those things, but you're also starting to see, which I love this, common themes. You start to see, okay, wait a minute. I'm starting to see common themes here. And then those common themes start to become like your core topics or pillars. So while you're doing this activity, you are starting to get clear on your story, your journey, your narrative, things that you even forgot about. And then at the same time, you're starting to see some core themes in your life that you now could turn those into core topics that you always talk about. That is the first step.
I mean, that's brilliant. That's perfect to get started. So you talked about what to get started with. Is there anything people need to stop doing today then?
Stop hiding your story.
Okay.
Stop minimizing your story and your journey. Oh, that wasn't a big thing, or nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Are you kidding me? There's like 1 billion people on Facebook. There's people who are telling their stories.
Yeah.
Some of them I don't particularly want to hear, but there's somebody else who wants to hear it.
Yeah.
I often tell people, you may not be Oprah, but you're someone's Oprah. You're someone's Jimmy Fallon. So it's really about finding your people. And I think what happens is when you stop telling yourself that your story doesn't matter, or I don't have a story to tell. Everybody has a story to tell. You just have to go back to the first point I gave you and start mining out what those stories are.
Awesome. I love that. So get started, be intentional,
Mhm.
and stop being quiet. So those are the big takeaways, right?
Yeah, stop being quiet. It's time to release your sound. There's so many things that are happening in our world. And when we have right leadership in place, and I would dare say the years that we worked in television, Maggie, we have had good news bosses and we've had not so good news bosses,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when you understand that you're a great leader, yeah, you've made some mistakes. There's some couple of bruises and some things that you learned, but you've grown from that, right? And when we understand that when there is the right leadership in place, that people are so much happier. You understand that it is imperative for me to show up, because people need to be happier, and they're happier when they have the right boss.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now let's go back a few minutes ago to the beginning. You started with your biggest takeaway. Now at
Mhm.
the end, do you still think that's the big takeaway, or would you change your thoughts?
I talked about that facts tell, but stories sell. I would add to that.
Okay.
Facts tell, but stories sell. But stories only sell if you make the story visible. That's what I would add to that, Maggie. You have to make your story visible. You have to give language, voice to your narrative. That's what you control. You can't control what happens on the other side of the screen, the clicks, all those things. But what you can control is giving voice to your journey. That's what I would add.
I love that. That's so powerful and so needed now in today's
Yeah.
world.
Yes. Yes. This was really a great conversation, Maggie.
I know. Thank you so much, Roshanda, for coming on the show. Um, of course, it's just a dream to have you here and to be reconnected after so many years of working
Right.
together and now us on different journeys. But here we are coming together talking about storytelling, which is where we started together.
Correct, correct. One thing I have to say, you are a dynamic reporter and you still are in this capacity. So bravo, my friend.
Thank you, Roshanda.
Thank you.